Hello watchers, I finally got round to making this video about Donald Trump that I've been promising for months, and as we are only a few days away from the election, I thought I'd do it now. So I've got my little notes here and I've got some little subject cards here, so this isn't going to be perfect, but let's see how it goes. So first of all, love him or hate him, you have to agree that Donald Trump has completely dominated this presidential election. He's been disruptive, his policies have been controversial, and to be honest, I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that politics gets shaken up, and I think it's good that we can debate the issues and subject them to intellectual scrutiny. Last year, I predicted he would win not only the Republican race, but also the presidential election. But what I want to make really clear is that I didn't predict he would win because I think he's really amazing or I think his policies are fantastic and great. I always thought he was going to win because he represents a movement of people, a very significant movement of people who are totally disenfranchised with modern politics. And I think that says a lot about the quality of political debate, the quality of our politicians, and the quality of our political parties. Now, you can pretend that this constituency doesn't exist. You can pretend that all of Donald Trump's supporters are completely rabid, working-class white folk, but it isn't true. Which brings me on to the main point of my thesis, which is that politics is failing. Politics and mainstream political parties are clearly failing. How can it be that two of the greatest political institutions on the planet, the Republican and Democratic parties, have put forward presidential candidates which are the worst in living memory? And we only have to look on this side of the pond at the Brexit referendum and look at the behaviour of our own politicians, at the terrible quality of our own political debate to see that mainstream politics is not working. And I sometimes wonder what Socrates and Plato, the great ancient Greek philosophers who basically invented political discourse, who invented our idea of ethics, what they would make of the quality of political discourse today. I'm sure they wouldn't be on Twitter, although I'm sure they'd make very good question time guests. Which brings me on to my next point, which is that disruption is good. There are many things about Donald Trump that I oppose, but one of the things I like about him is that he is anti-establishment. And he is a counterpoint to all of the special interests, the big corporate interests and the political elites which I know dominate politics. And what I find a bit curious and surprising about friends and colleagues of mine who align themselves to the left is that they've not been a little bit more open-minded about this movement, which opposes dominant social and political elites, which I think do have too much power in our society. Which brings me on to the leader of one of the most powerful elites, and that is Hillary Clinton. Now, Donald Trump is a pretty odious individual, but Hillary's record of corruption, of deviousness, and of incompetence are astounding. And I have to say to those people who support her that I cannot believe you can think she would make a good president. My next point is about political correctness, something I'm really concerned about. Political correctness is killing free speech in this country and in America, and it allows unscrupulous people to abuse our democracy. But what I do accept is that Donald Trump's sexism and xenophobia go far beyond free speech, and it is completely right that people look at what he has said and infer from that the kind of person and the kind of character he is. But there is a big difference between calling someone a sexist and a xenophobe and accusing them of criminal sexual behaviour and of racism. Now, I'm sorry that if I offend anybody with this view, but if you believe that I'm an awful person because I do not subscribe to the opinion that someone is guilty until they are proven innocent, then so be it. This rush towards judging people in the court of public opinion rather than in the court of law is for me one of the most worrying trends of modern social debate, which totally undermines the rule of law and the principles of justice. But I think we all can agree that people like Donald and Hillary are not great political leaders, which means we need new ones. The movement that Trump represents clearly needs new leaders. There is also a movement on the other side that was clearly represented by the fervent support from Bernie Sanders' supporters. We need leaders we can all aspire to support, leaders who personify the values that we uphold. Donald Trump clearly isn't that person. However, I do agree with Donald on some things. I think he is right on issues of global power, global trade, and the balance of power in the world. And one of the things that I'm really concerned about is this rush and growing trend towards globalization. I do not like power to be far away from the electorate, and that is inevitably what happens when you support globalization. But what I do want to see is countries like the United Kingdom and the United States holding the balance of power in the world by being the dominant powers both militarily and economically. And if we continue on this current path with America as a debtor nation, 21 trillion in debt, 1 trillion a year in trade deficits with other countries around the world, we are going to start to see the rise of power of countries like China and Russia, who completely do not share our values, and we are already seeing them flexing their muscles in this regard. And that does need to be combated, and I do not believe politicians like Hillary Clinton have the answer to that. So, why do I want Hillary Clinton to win? Well, I don't believe Donald Trump is the right person to be president of the United States, but neither do I think Hillary could be a good president either. If she wins the election, I don't think she will survive this latest FBI investigation, and I think we will probably see a new election sometime in the relatively near future. Then maybe the Democrats can bring back a sensible candidate like Bernie Sanders, who, if he had been their candidate, would have completely wiped out Trump, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation now. So, please subject my comments and my views to intellectual and polite scrutiny in the comments below, and God bless America.